Dungeons & Dragons players who have had concerns regarding the backwards compatibility of D&D 2024 to 2014 will have some answers today, and I'm going to give you them after some interviews went live on several channels with Jeremry Crawford, who works at Wizards of the Coast as a lead on the game, where he discussed a plethora of things, but the one we're going to focus on is backwards compatibility, and there's a lot to go over. We'll start with his answers in an interview with the character sheet, which I will link down below and recommend you watch. As I said, there is more in those than just what I am covering, so you should check out each of the creators and the interviews that they had with Jeremry. So, what did he say to them initially? In simple terms, he basically said if it is in the 2024 book and you are playing a 2024 campaign, then you have to use the 2024 version. However, if it is not in the 2024 book, like certain subclasses or feats or spells, then you can use the version from 2014.
You can use with any of similar elements that appear in other books, as long as it's not the same thing. And here's what I mean by that. If a subclass appears in the 2024 rules and you're making a 2024 character, you can't use the 2014 version of that subclass. Same with feats, same with species, any other element that basically, as soon as it appears in its new form, that new form replaces the old form. But what that also means is if something doesn't appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook, you are welcome to pair it with a thing that does.
He also explained again that this goes to not only subclasses and races, such as the half-elf, which is missing from the new book because they just felt like it didn't need to be in there. It was in 2014, and they had already met some of those sort of bases with like having the orc in there and so on and so forth. He also goes on to say it includes the feats, it includes the spells. Anything that is missing, you can still use.
So, great example of this. If you are playing a 2024 wizard and you want to use the Necromancer subclass from the 2014 Player's Handbook, you are welcome to do so. Again, that is true of anything, not just from the 2014 Player's Handbook, but books like Xanathar's Guide, Tasha's Cauldron. If it's a feat, subclass, species, or other character element that does not appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook, you can use it with the material that does.
Now, if you're wondering, but why? He goes into that. He explains that the two main reasons are, one, that they want you to play with the new and improved or enhanced, as they like to say, versions of all of these things, but also that having two people at the table playing two different versions of the same thing can make the game not seem as simple or approachable. So I don't blame him for that. He also goes on to explain that there is guidance for a lot of these things within the book. So if you're worried about it, don't worry, they have you covered.
On using particularly species and backgrounds from older books, there's guidance on that in the new Player's Handbook in the chapter on character building. And we provided that guidance particularly because the game over the last decade has taken several different directions when it comes to ability score increases at first level. And so the Player's Handbook addresses that directly.
And if you're worried about the fact that you picked a subclass with a different level progression, well, he covers that too and explains that they write it right there in the book that you get everything from that level and back. So once you choose it, you get everything prior to that, so that's covered too.
When you get your subclass in a 2024 class, we worded the rules so that it gives you any features that you might, let's say you pick an older subclass that maybe had a different level progression. The new rules make it clear you get all of the features from the earlier levels.
One of the other places where he did an interview today was Pack Tactics, which again, you should go check out. Lots of other stuff covered in that video, but one of the important things as it relates to this is feats in particular. So he answered a lot of the same stuff when it came to backwards compatibility, but got a little more nitty gritty when it comes to some of the feats. So that's what we're going to cover now. The feats basically work in a way where, yes, you can use all of the feats from the older books, those versions of them, unless they're in the 2024 version. However, there are now these categories, right? You have your origin feats. Those are only in the 2024 books because the ones in the previous books, whether it's the Player's Handbook, Xanathar's, whatever, they are not classified as origin feats. What this means is while you do have access to all of the older feats, if you get something as an origin feat, you will be limited to the things that are in the 2024 book. The origin feats in particular will not be something you can use backwards compatible content in for those slots. Once you get to level 4 or 8 and you get your feat or ability score, you can then use any of the older ones, because I think origins are the only ones that are sort of limited. I could be wrong there, but they're still usable, but you can't use them in spots where it says origins.
The new rules now make it clear how you choose feats. So for example, the new human specifies that you choose an origin feat, which then makes it impossible for you to choose an older feat that is not specifically tagged as an origin feat. So we solved for this to make the backward compatibility with feats seamless by adding these categories to our feats. And so again, if you follow the rule in the new PH and just sort of follow it as written, it will tell you like you have to go pick an origin feat. And so then if you go to Tasha's, you're like, oh, I'm going to go look at feats in Tasha's. Well, none of those feats are called origin feats, so they're not permissible. But if you're later told, just go pick any feat that you qualify for, then you can pick feats from one of those other books, as long as it's not a feat that appears in the new player's handbook.
So in summary, this all seems like good news. So in summary, I think this should put a lot of people's concerns to rest. I think that nothing is gone. Things have been improved or enhanced or replaced, but nothing has been removed, right? So any spell or class, subclass, race that you had in previous books that were core to the game are still there. You can still use them. The only caveat is that some of them have been replaced with new versions of themselves, in which case you need to use those. But nothing is gone. There's either new versions or the same old stuff. So all of that stuff is usable. To me, this means that it is backwards compatible. Again, in a somewhat unique way at parts, but I think that's okay. But this is when you get to tell me what you think. So go ahead down in the comments below. Let me know, does this put your worries at ease? Do you feel better about it? Is this the kind of information that you were looking for? Let me know down below. And of course, if you want more D&D and TTRPG content, please don't hesitate to give the video a thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and leave a comment down below to get it placed in your algorithm. And if you want to support me directly in the best way monetarily, you become a member here on YouTube or head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/levelupdm. Thank you all so much once again, and until next time, good luck in your adventures.